everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to my podcast, Mari's Murder and Mystery. Today's podcast will be based out of Washington State, and while I am telling you the podcast, I will be crocheting. So let's go. This story takes place in October of 1947, October 30th, Hallows Eve. A young man by the name of Jake Bird was walking down the road in Tacoma, Washington, when he stumbled upon an axe in one of the yards. He got this bright idea to decide to go and rob a house. The house he chose belonged to Beverly and Bertha Cludd. Beverly was the 17-year-old daughter of Bertha Cludd, who was a widow. Upon entering their house, he didn't really have to do much. The door was unlocked, so he was able to let himself in. Jake took off his shoes, walked through the kitchen, and made his way to the bedroom. In the bedroom, he found a purse unattended and decided to take $1.50 out of there. $1.50 in 1947 would be considered $21.41 roughly in 2024. When Jake leaves the kitchen, he makes his way back into he left the bedroom. He makes his way back into the kitchen where he finds Bertha, the mom. Bertha decides she's going to just start screaming at him. Leave my house, get out of here, leave, leave. That in turn wakes up her daughter, Beverly, and she comes running down the stairs and she attacks Mr. Bird from behind. Remember, Mr. Bird has an axe. And, warning, he does unalive both of them with the axe. Upon hearing all the screams, the neighbors decided to call the cops. And when Mr. Bird heard the police approaching, he booked it out the back door, running. The police did see him running and decided to chase him because it's 2 in the morning and why is someone running for? So immediately they knew this is our guy. They had to chase him through some of the neighborhoods and they finally corner him in someone's backyard. But Mr. Bird didn't go without a fight. He actually um he actually had a knife on him and he did injure both officers, but that didn't stop them from detaining him, fortunately. Once they detained him, they went back into the house and realized that what this guy had done was pretty heinous. So they took him immediately back to the Tacoma City Jail, and booked him for first-degree murder. Now, waiting for his court date, they did assign him a defense attorney, but during that court hearing, he actually asked to represent himself, and that was denied. The defense attorney actually asked to be relieved of his duties, also denied. A little bit of information about Mr. Bird. He is a young African American man living in Washington State post World War II. So there was not very much diversity at this time. Currently, Washington stands at 7 million people in population, but back in 1947, it was only 2 million. And the only races that were very predominant at the time were the Native Americans, the white people, and the Japanese. So there was only three main races that you would recognize, like here in Washington State. And so when he was arrested, he really, he felt like he wasn't going to get a fair trial. And that is the one thing that his defense attorney did ask for them, was to get a fair trial. And based off everything that they did, I think that he did get a fairly fair trial. Once the court was finally settled, he had his court date in December. And in December, this was one of the fastest court hearings, I should say. It took them no more than 2 days to find that he was guilty. The police officer's testimony was the night of the crime warning. When they finally arrested Mr. Byrd, they had looked upon him with further inspection and found that he had brain matter and he had blood, like human blood all over him. And they found a lot of like the brain matter in his hair. They found bloody fingerprints all over the weapon. Excuse me. They also found his shoes. Remember, he took off his shoes. And so all of that evidence was stacked against him. This is 1947, 1948 at this point. There isn't a whole lot of, forensic tools at their disposal. So they're just kind of going off of what they know. And the jury was compiled of people who had never been through a case before, at least this drastic. They did have a couple people that had to be reassigned because they had just finished a court case and had another man hung. So they needed to have like a fresh mind, fresh people, and they did. Um, but the court still found Mr. Byrd guilty. And on the second day of his trial, they asked his prosecuting attorney if he had anything to say. And the prosecuting attorney, and I'm going to sum it up as best as I can, said that any man who cannot value a life in his own presence or doesn't find life as like precious or of any value should be obliterated, like pretty much should be unalived. And that was his statement. The defense attorney, the one that was representing Mr. Byrd. When they asked Mr. Byrd if he had anything to say, oh, he had a mouthful. The first thing he said was that he didn't believe that his trial was fair. He didn't believe any of the evidence that was against him. And he also noted that his own defense attorney wanted him to be unalived and didn't feel confident in the decision of the jury. But nonetheless, their mind was still made up. But the last thing he said that caught everyone's attention was this. He said that whoever had any dealings with putting him away would die before he did. And this would later be known as the Jacob Byrd hex. And it's really crazy to me, when people say that, like they're just blatantly saying some scary stuff. And whew. Well, come to January, this was the day that they had chosen to hang him. Right, like the day of his execution, he decided he wanted to confess to the the jailer, the cop that was gonna take him to go get hung, that he had committed more than one murder. And it wasn't the one that was here in Washington. And he was starting to confess a lot of things. Jake thought that this would buy him more time. It did, but not a whole lot of time. When the media found out that he wasn't getting hung and there was more to it, the prosecuting attorney had to reassure them that he was not giving him more time to live, but just more time to gather more evidence against him. Jake admitted to over 48 different heinous murders, but they were only able to connect him to 11 of them. So there's about like 38, 37 cases that are unaccounted for, unfortunately, which is it's very sad. But all of these happened while he was traveling from Louisiana up to Washington. Um, and it's so heartbreaking to hear about that kind of stuff. It's very, very scary. But it's sad at the same time because a lot of people have unanswered mysteries about their loved ones. And this is it's no good. But the reason why I chose this particular case for is because it was very unheard of. It's just very odd. And during his confessions, the hex became true. 6 people, 5 people, 5 people of the court case actually passed away, including the judge and the defense attorney that actually was representing him. So that was pretty crazy. I didn't know any of that information until after I thought that I had covered all four corners of this case. It was extremely crazy to hear that this hex came true. But, you know,
A very important piece of information that I forgot to mention was that Jake was later hung in 1979 in July.
with all that being said, the only piece of advice I have for you is to lock your door. Can you believe that this could have been completely avoided if their door had been locked? And it's very unfortunate that that happened. I I will have all of the links down below to all of the articles that I found coming across. I will also have a lot of pictures down there below, and I will have a link to some slides that I put together for this case. Um, just more in depth, more tribute to the victims. I wasn't able to find any more information on the 11 other cases, but I hope that as I dig into other states, maybe I'll be able to find something in relation to that. It's just it's so crazy to me how these people can travel like that and keep going with no remorse. Like, jeez, man, that's scary. That's someone's uncle, someone's could be someone's aunt, someone's sister. It's very sad and very unfortunate. And like I say, just keep your doors locked and keep your eyes you know peeled. Keep your ears open. Always be aware. Always be a helping neighbor when you can be, because those neighbors, I mean, I'm pretty sure that they would have never wanted that to happen to their own neighbor, but it did, and it's very unfortunate. And while I am telling you guys a story, I crocheted all of this. It's not the best, but it's definitely a little square. So we're thinking about opening up another podcast, The Killer Crochet, and just crochet as we talk. But I really do like the Triple M podcast. That kind of thing is really cool to me. I really like the appeal of it, but I think I'm sticking to the Triple M podcast for now. And if you guys want to follow me on my Instagram, it is Mighty Crochets, established in '96. I will have all of my social links down below. My Facebook is where I will be posting this as well, and on YouTube as well. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in to my very first podcast. Thank you guys. It means a lot to me, and I hope to see you guys in my next episode for Oregon. So we're gonna be going pretty much like in order of where I'm starting from. And yeah, so stay tuned. Bye, guys.